Dr. Thomas Reed rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the data scrolling across his computer screen. Something wasn't right. After 20 years of watching the stars at the Berkeley Space Center, he had never seen anything like this. "Emily," he called out, his voice echoing through the quiet observatory. "Can you come look at this?" Dr. Emily Walker hurried over from her workstation, her coffee cup still steaming in her hand. She leaned over his shoulder, her blonde hair falling forward, as she studied the readings. "That can't be right," she muttered, placing her cup down. "Alpha Centauri just went quiet." Thomas nodded, his face pale in the glow of the monitors. "Not just Alpha Centauri. Look at the whole sector." He pulled up more screens, showing different parts of the night sky. "In the last 6 hours, every star in that region has stopped emitting radio signals." Emily grabbed a chair and rolled it next to him. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up more data. "It's like someone's turning off lights in a room, one by one." The phenomenon was unlike anything they had ever seen. Stars weren't supposed to just go silent. They were massive ancient beings that burned for billions of years. Yet here they were, watching them fall silent like candles being blown out at a birthday party. Thomas reached for the phone. "We need to call Morrison Observatory. They have better equipment for this kind of thing." He dialed quickly, putting the phone on speaker. Within hours, observatories across the globe were confirming their findings. The silence was spreading across space like a wave, moving faster than anything they had ever recorded. Stars weren't dying. They were still visible, but they had stopped making noise. All their radio emissions, their solar winds, their cosmic songs, everything had gone quiet. 3 days later, Thomas hadn't left the observatory. Empty coffee cups littered his desk, and his usual neat appearance had given way to wrinkled clothes and messy hair. The silence had now spread across half the observable universe. "Look at this pattern," Emily said, pinning up another star chart. The wall of their main room had become a massive timeline, tracking the spread of the silence. "It's moving in a straight line toward us." Thomas was about to respond when all their computers started beeping at once. Red warnings flashed across every screen. "What now?" he groaned, turning to the nearest monitor. Emily's eyes widened as she read the data. "Tom, something just entered our solar system. Something big." The object had appeared suddenly, moving at impossible speeds. It slowed down near Mars, its energy signature unlike anything in their database. Thomas grabbed his phone to alert NASA, but before he could dial, every piece of equipment in the observatory went crazy. The object was changing course. It was heading straight for Earth. Military channels exploded with activity. The news spread across the globe in minutes. Governments issued statements telling people to stay calm, but panic was already setting in. The silence consuming the stars was bad enough. Now there was an alien object heading toward Earth. But something strange happened as the object got closer. Emily noticed it first. "Tom," she shouted, waving him over to her station. "Look at the readings around Earth." The data showed something remarkable. While the wave of silence continued to spread across the universe, it seemed to bend around Earth's solar system, like water flowing around a rock in a stream. "We're protected," Thomas whispered, understanding dawning on his face. Something about Earth is different. The alien object drew closer, finally settling into orbit around the moon. It was massive, nearly a mile long, and showed signs of severe damage. Parts of its hull were torn open, revealing strange lights within. Then came the message. It broadcast on every frequency, in perfect English. "People of Earth, forgive our sudden arrival. We come seeking refuge. Your world is now the last hope for all living things. The stars are going silent, and soon darkness will consume everything, except you. Something about your world is special, and we need your help to save the universe." Thomas and Emily looked at each other, their faces reflecting the glow of their screens. In just a few days, their world had changed forever. The stars were dying, Aliens had arrived, and somehow, Earth, humanity, held the key to saving everything. As they watched the alien ship through their telescopes, more lights appeared in the lunar orbit. More ships were arriving. Earth was about to become very crowded, and humanity would have to step up to face a challenge bigger than anything they had ever imagined. The Great Silence had begun, and with it, humanity's greatest test was about to start. The meeting room at the United Nations was packed. World leaders sat shoulder to shoulder, their usual political differences forgotten in the face of what was happening above their heads. Ambassador Rachel Matthews stood at the podium, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. Next to her stood something that, just a week ago, would have seemed impossible. An alien. The creature looked almost human, except for its silvery skin and large, deep blue eyes. It called itself the last speaker of the Galactic Council. The entity we face is known as the Void, the last speaker said, its voice translated through a small device at its throat. It consumes all energy, leaving only silence in its wake. Rachel watched as images appeared on the giant screen behind them. They showed vast areas of space, once bright with stars, now dark and lifeless. The room fell silent. But your world, the speaker continued, is different. Your magnetic field, your solar system's unique arrangement, and something else we don't yet understand. They all work together to create a shield. Captain Michael Brooks stood at the back of the room, his military uniform crisp despite the long hours he'd been on duty. As commander of the U.S. Defender, Earth's most advanced spacecraft, he had been chosen to coordinate with the alien refugees. "How many ships can we expect?" he asked, his voice cutting through the murmurs in the room. The speaker's expression changed to something that might have been sadness. "Thousands, maybe more. We are all that remains of 50,000 civilizations. The Void has consumed everything else." The next few days were chaos. Ships appeared in Earth's orbit by the hundreds. The moon became a parking lot for vessels of all shapes and sizes. Captain Brooks worked around the clock, directing traffic and preventing collisions. On Earth, Rachel dealt with an even bigger challenge, finding room for millions of refugees. "We need to convert the Sahara Desert," she told the Emergency Council. "The aliens have technology that can make it habitable in days." The alien technology was amazing. Massive environmental processors descended from the ships, turning desert into fertile land. Dead zones in the oceans became living spaces for aquatic species. Underground cities sprouted up in record time. But not everyone was happy. Protesters gathered in cities around the world. "Earth for humans." Their signs read, "Send them back." Rachel watched the news reports with worry. "We need to help them understand," she told Michael during a rare quiet moment. They stood in the new International Space Command Center, watching ships arrive through the massive window. "Look at that," Michael said, pointing to a new arrival. The ship was barely holding together, its hull scared and broken. "They're running for their lives, just like we would." The speaker appeared behind them, moving silently as its kind always did. "We have detected something troubling," it said. "The Void, it's changing course, moving faster." They rushed to the control room. On the main screen, they could see it clearly. The wave of silence was no longer flowing around Earth's solar system. It was coming straight for them. "How long do we have?" Michael asked. 2 weeks, the speaker replied. "Maybe less." Rachel felt her heart sink, but she straightened her shoulders. "Then we better figure out why we're special fast," she said. "Why Earth is protected." "There's more," the speaker said. Its blue eyes seemed to glow in the dim room. "We've analyzed your people. Human brainwaves. They're unique. They create patterns we've never seen before, patterns that might be able to disrupt the Void." Michael and Rachel looked at each other. Humanity had just become more than refugees' last hope. They might be the universe's only weapon against the darkness. In orbit, another ship appeared, this one carrying scientists from across the galaxy. Earth was about to become the front line in a war unlike any in history. A war not fought with weapons, but with the power of human consciousness itself. As Rachel looked out at the crowded sky, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had always looked to the stars for salvation. Now the stars were looking to humanity to save them. The real work was about to begin. Dr. Jennifer Parker hadn't slept in 2 days. She stared at the brain scan results floating in the holographic display, trying to understand what made human minds so special. The lab, a combination of Earth and alien technology, hummed with energy around her. Coffee. James Wilson walked in, carrying 2 steaming cups. The former Marine had traded his military uniform for a lab coat, but he still moved with soldier-like precision. His new job was just as important as his old one, maybe more so. "Thanks," Jennifer said, taking a cup. "Look at this pattern. It shows up in every human we've tested." She pointed to a strange wave in the brain activity. Nothing like it in any alien species. James set his coffee down and touched the hologram, spinning it to get a better view. The neural pattern looked almost like a spiral galaxy, spinning with its own inner light. Suddenly, alarms blared through the facility. Red lights flashed as emergency protocols activated. Jennifer and James ran to the main testing chamber, where their first human-alien neural interface was being tested. Inside, they found chaos. The test subject, a volunteer named Mike Rogers, was screaming. The alien connected to his mind through the interface lay unconscious, its silvery skin turned almost white. "Shut it down," Jennifer shouted. "Cut the connection." James slammed the emergency stop button. The neural link died, and Mike slumped in his chair, breathing hard. "What happened?" Jennifer asked once Mike had recovered. "I saw it," Mike whispered, his eyes wide. "The void. It's alive. And it noticed us looking at it." The news spread quickly through the refugee camps and command centers. The void wasn't just a natural phenomenon. It was conscious. And now it knew they were fighting back. In the next few days, more tests failed. Each time humans tried to connect with alien minds to amplify their unique brainwaves, something went wrong. The void seemed to push back, causing pain to everyone involved. "We need a new approach," James told the emergency council. He stood at the front of the room, his expression serious. "The aliens' technology is great, but we need to do this the human way." Jennifer stepped forward with their new plan. "Instead of trying to copy alien methods, we should focus on what makes us different. Our minds work in chaos. That's our strength." They built a new testing chamber, designed around human brain patterns instead of alien ones. This time, they would try something that had never been done before. "Ready?" Jennifer asked. She stood in the control room, watching as James took his place in the testing chair. As both a soldier and a scientist, he had insisted on being the first to try the new system. "Ready," James replied. His voice was steady, but Jennifer could see the tension in his shoulders. The machine powered up. Unlike the alien technology, which was all smooth surfaces and soft lights, this one looked like something from an old sci-fi movie. Wires and cables ran everywhere, connecting to a dozen computers. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then James gasped. His brain patterns appeared on the main screen, but they were different now. Stronger, more focused. "I can feel it," he said. His voice sounded strange, as if it was coming from far away. "The void. It's like an ocean of darkness. But there's light too. Our light." Jennifer watched the readings in amazement. James's brainwaves were affecting the space around him, creating ripples in reality itself. For just a moment, a tiny spot of darkness in the test chamber, a simulation of the void, flickered and retreated. "It works," Jennifer shouted. "James, you did it." But their celebration was cut short. James suddenly clutched his head, crying out in pain. The darkness in the chamber grew, pushing against the walls. "Get him out of there," someone yelled. They pulled James from the machine just in time. The testing chamber filled with swirling darkness before the emergency systems managed to contain it. Later, as James recovered in the medical bay, Jennifer looked over the data with shaking hands. They had made progress, the first real success against the Void. But they had also learned something troubling. The Void wasn't just noticing them now, it was fighting back. "We need more time," Jennifer told the emergency council that evening. "We're close to something, but the Void is adapting to our attacks." But time was the one thing they didn't have. Outside the Earth's protective bubble, the wave of silence was getting closer. They had less than a week before it reached them. The race to save the universe had become a sprint. Dr. Robert Anderson wiped dust from the ancient stone tablet, his hands trembling with excitement. The underground chamber in Egypt had been sealed for thousands of years, yet its walls were covered with images that couldn't possibly exist. Detailed drawings of the Void. "Lisa," he called to his partner, "you need to see this." Lisa Thompson looked up from her computer, where she had been decoding other symbols found in the chamber. The young cryptographer pushed her glasses up and hurried over. Her flashlight beam joined his on the wall. "That's impossible," she whispered. "These drawings, they show the same thing we're seeing now. The stars going dark, the wave of silence." She touched the carved images gently. "This happened before." Robert nodded, his gray hair covered in ancient dust. "Look at these dates. If I'm reading them right, this cycle hits Earth every 50,000 years. We're not the first to face this test." Their discovery sparked a global race to find more evidence. Within days, similar chambers were found in Mexico, China, and under the ice in Antarctica. Each one told the same story. Humanity had faced the Void before. At the main research facility, Jennifer Parker and James Wilson studied the new information. The ancient messages were clear. Human consciousness was the key, but not in the way they had been trying to use it. "We've been fighting it wrong," James said, spreading out copies of the ancient drawings. "Look at these patterns. They're not showing us how to attack the Void. They're showing us how to communicate with it." Lisa, who had joined their team, pointed to a series of symbols. The previous civilizations, they didn't just survive the Void. They worked with it. These markings say it's some kind of test. "A test of what?" Jennifer asked. "Of worthiness," Robert answered, cleaning his glasses thoughtfully. "The Void isn't trying to destroy us. It's testing our ability to adapt and evolve." Their theory was proved right that afternoon. During another test of the neural interface, something changed. Instead of fighting against the Void, the test subject, a young woman named Mary Clark, tried to understand it. The whole facility watched in amazement as Mary's brainwaves synchronized with the darkness in the test chamber. Instead of retreating, the Void seemed to dance with her thoughts. "It's beautiful," Mary said, tears running down her cheeks. "It's not empty at all. It's full of possibilities." James checked the readings. Her consciousness isn't fighting the Void. It's reshaping it. Human minds can mold it like clay. But their breakthrough came with a price. As Mary connected deeper with the Void, the protective bubble around Earth flickered. For a moment, everyone felt it. A deep cosmic cold that went beyond physical sensation. The bubble's not just protecting us, Lisa realized, looking at new translations. It's containing us, keeping us in one place until we figure this out. Robert found more evidence in the ancient texts. Previous civilizations learned to work with the Void, to shape reality itself. But something went wrong. They got too powerful, too quickly. They weren't ready. So the Void reset everything, Jennifer said, gave the universe a fresh start. And now it's our turn to prove we can handle that power responsibly. They worked through the night, combining ancient knowledge with modern science. The answer was becoming clear. Humanity needed to prove it could unite, not just with itself, but with all the refugee species. "The Void isn't our enemy," James told the emergency council the next morning. "It's more like a cosmic filter, testing species to see if they're ready for the next step in evolution. Lisa stood up, holding a newly translated tablet. And we've passed the first test. Instead of turning away the refugees, enough of humanity chose to help them. We proved we can rise above our fears and work together. But time was still running out. The wave of silence was less than 3 days away, and they needed to prove humanity was ready for the final test. We need everyone, Jennifer said. Not just a few test subjects. Every human mind working together, along with our alien allies. One unified consciousness reaching out to the void. As the teams rushed to modify their equipment for a planet-wide linking of minds, Robert found one last message in the ancient chambers. It was both a warning and a promise. When the stars fall silent, listen not with your ears, but with your soul. For in the darkness between worlds lies the power to reshape reality itself. Unity is the key, compassion the way forward, and humanity the bridge between what was and what could be. The final test was about to begin. Project leader David Miller stood in the center of the global connection hub, surrounded by screens showing billions of green dots, each one representing a human being ready to join the network. The room hummed with power as the world's largest computer system ever built came to life. All stations, report in, he called out, his voice steady despite the pressure. Colonel Amanda Foster checked her military displays. Defense systems are ready. If anything goes wrong, we can shut down the network in seconds. The plan was both simple and terrifying. Connect every willing human mind into one giant network, amplified by alien technology. It would be the largest group consciousness in history. Remember, David told his team, we're not fighting the void. We're trying to show it we're ready for the next step. The first tests started small. They connected 1,000 volunteers, then 10,000, then 1,000,000. Each time, the power grew stronger. The network didn't just link minds. It made them stronger, smarter, more aware. Amanda watched the power readings with concern. These energy levels are off the charts. Are you sure the human brain can handle this? Her answer came from an unexpected source. A young technician named Peter started to glow with a soft blue light. Around him, others in the control room began to shine too. It's beautiful, Peter whispered. I can feel everyone, not just their thoughts, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. David checked the readings. This is new. The network isn't just connecting minds. It's creating something else, something bigger. The glow spread through the building, then across the city. Satellite images showed points of blue light appearing all over the world as more people joined the network. Even those who hadn't signed up found themselves gently pulled in, drawn by the warmth and peace of the connection. But then something went wrong. Energy spike, Amanda shouted. The network's drawing too much power. David rushed to the main console. The green dots were turning red, one by one. People were falling unconscious, overwhelmed by the connection. Shut it down, he ordered. But before they could act, a new voice filled the room. It came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking through the network itself. Do not be afraid, it said. It was Peter's voice, but different. Deeper, older somehow. We understand now. This is what we were meant to become. The unconscious people began to wake up, their eyes glowing with the same blue light. But they weren't hurt. They were changed. The network, David realized, it's not just connecting us. It's helping us evolve. Through the network, they could see the truth. Human consciousness had always been meant to work this way, not as separate minds, but as one unified force. The aliens watched in amazement as humanity took its next evolutionary step. The void itself seemed to respond. The wave of silence slowed, as if watching, waiting. Amanda's screen showed something incredible. The unconscious people, their brainwaves are perfect matches for the void's energy pattern. We're not just connecting with each other. We're matching the frequency of the universe itself. David felt it too, as the network pulled him in. He could sense every human mind on Earth. And beyond that, the watching presence of the void. It wasn't dark or empty anymore. It was full of potential, waiting for them to be ready. "This is what the ancient civilizations discovered," he said, his voice filled with awe. "But they tried to use it for power. We're using it to bring everyone together." The alien refugees felt it too. Though they couldn't join the network directly, they could sense its effect. Their own consciousness began to resonate with the human network, creating new patterns, new possibilities. As the sun set around the world, Earth glowed like a blue star. Billions of minds worked as one, not fighting the darkness, but embracing it, understanding it, reshaping it. In orbit, the refugee ships reported the first success. A small star cluster, consumed by the void weeks ago, began to flicker back to life. David looked at his team, all of them now glowing with the same inner light. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We're not just saving the universe, we're helping it grow into something new." The real test was about to start. Could humanity handle this much power without repeating the mistakes of the past? The next few hours would tell. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the void waited to see what they would choose. Fleet Commander Jessica Hayes stood on the bridge of the Earth's newest ship, the Starlight. Built with combined human and alien technology, it was humanity's first true starship. Through the massive window, she watched hundreds of other ships form up around hers. "All ships report ready," her first officer said. "The human neural network is powering all vessels." Jessica nodded, feeling the warm buzz of billions of connected minds in her head. Every ship in the fleet was powered by human consciousness, amplified by alien tech. They called it Operation Starlight, humanity's first attempt to push back against the void. "Remember," she broadcast to the fleet, "we're not just fighting. We're showing the void we understand its purpose. Target the dead stars. Show them we can bring back the light." The fleet moved as one, guided by the shared consciousness of humanity. As they approached the edge of Earth's protective bubble, Jessica felt a moment of fear. No one had gone past that boundary since the void appeared. "First target in range," called out her weapons officer. "It's the remains of Alpha Centauri." Jessica took a deep breath. "All ships, focus your consciousness. Remember the pattern we practiced. Think of light, of life, of hope." The fleet's human crews joined their minds together. Blue energy flowed from the ships, reaching out toward the dead star. At first, nothing happened. Then, like a match striking in darkness, a tiny spark appeared. "It's working," someone shouted. The spark grew, fed by human consciousness. Alpha Centauri began to glow again, first dimly, then with increasing brightness. The star was coming back to life. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but their celebration was cut short. "Commander," her sensor officer called out. "Something's happening." The void was moving, not just flowing like before, but gathering itself like a storm cloud. It had noticed them. "All ships, defensive positions," Jessica ordered. The attack came fast. Tendrils of pure darkness shot through space, wrapping around ships and trying to pull them into the void. The neural network blazed with sudden fear as thousands of minds felt the cold touch of absolute nothing. "Hold together," Jessica commanded through the network. "Don't fight it with fear. Remember what we learned. Show it we understand." The human minds in the fleet calmed, their fear turning to determination. Instead of pulling away from the dark tendrils, they reached out to them with understanding. For a moment, it seemed to work. The void's attack slowed, but then it changed tactics. A massive wave of darkness swept toward them, bigger than anything they'd seen before. It wasn't just trying to consume them, it was testing them, pushing them to their limits. "Earth's bubble is failing," someone reported. The protective field around their home planet was starting to crack under the void's pressure. Jessica felt panic ripple through the neural network. If Earth's shield fell, everything would be lost. She had to make a decision. "All ships, fall back to Earth," she ordered. "We need to protect the bubble." But as the fleet turned, Dr. William Peters, who had been quiet until now, spoke up from his science station. "Wait. Look at the void's pattern." Jessica looked at the readings. The void wasn't attacking randomly. Its movements followed a specific rhythm, almost like, "It's dancing," William said softly, "testing our balance, our harmony. This isn't a fight. It's a conversation." Understanding swept through the neural network. The humans in the fleet stopped retreating and instead began to move in sync with the void's patterns. Jessica felt it too. All ships, new formation. Match its movements. Show it we can dance too. The fleet began to weave through space in an intricate pattern, their blue energy trails creating beautiful designs against the darkness. Human consciousness flowed with the void instead of against it. Slowly, the attack stopped. The void seemed to pause, watching them. Then, something incredible happened. Where the human fleet's patterns crossed with the void's movements, new stars began to flicker to life. "We did it," William breathed. "We figured out the real test. It was never about fighting the darkness. It was about proving we could work with it." Jessica finished. "Show that we could handle the power without letting it corrupt us." But their victory celebration was premature. A new wave of darkness, bigger than anything before, was gathering at the edge of their sensor range. The void had one final test for humanity. The real challenge was just beginning. Professor Mary Anderson stood in the Global Connection Hub, her eyes glowing with the same blue light that now shone from every human on Earth. Through the neural network, she felt billions of minds working as one, preparing for the final test. "The void's wave is massive," Jessica Hayes reported from the fleet. "Bigger than anything we've seen. It's surrounding us completely." Through their shared consciousness, Mary could see it too. The darkness had formed a perfect sphere around Earth's protective bubble, like a hand closing around a fragile egg. "Don't be afraid," Mary sent through the network. "This is what everything has been leading to. The ancient civilizations left us the clue. Harmony, not power, is the key." She had spent the last few hours developing a new way to use human brainwaves. Not as a weapon, not as a shield, but as something else entirely, a bridge between life and the void. "Everyone," she broadcast globally, "remember what we learned. Think of the stars not as lights to be relit, but as notes in a cosmic song." The neural network hummed with understanding. Billions of human minds began to work together, their thoughts moving in perfect harmony. The refugee aliens watched in amazement as humanity's consciousness reached out to touch the void. This time, they didn't try to push it back. Instead, they listened to it, felt its rhythm, understood its purpose. The void wasn't death, it was change, renewal, possibility. "Now," Mary commanded softly, "let's show it our song." Human consciousness flowed out from Earth like a tide of light, but instead of fighting the darkness, it began to dance with it. Billions of minds moved in patterns that matched the void's own rhythm, creating something new, a symphony of thought and energy. The effect was immediate and beautiful. Where human consciousness met the void, stars began to reawaken, not just coming back to life, but being reborn as something more. Each star now pulsed with a combination of light and darkness, life and potential. "It's working," Jessica called from her ship. "The void, it's responding." The massive wave of darkness began to move differently. Instead of pressing in, it started to weave itself through the human energy patterns. Light and dark danced together in space, creating spirals of new stars and possibilities. Through the network, Mary felt something else. The void was communicating with them, not in words, but in feelings and images. It showed them the truth. It had been waiting for a species that could understand both light and darkness, life and change. "We see you," Mary whispered to the void. "We understand now." The alien ships began to glow as well, their own consciousness resonating with the human network. Ancient barriers between species fell away as all life joined in the cosmic dance. Then came the moment of truth. The void's final test arrived as a simple question. felt by every mind in the network. What will you do with this power? Mary smiled. Through the network, humanity answered as one. We will share it. We will use it to help all life grow, to help the universe itself evolve. Not to control, but to create. Not to rule, but to learn. The response was immediate. The void's darkness transformed, becoming transparent like crystal. Through it, they could see new universes being born, new possibilities opening up. Look, Jessica called out. The stars were coming back everywhere now, but different than before. Each one pulsed with both light and dark, creating music that could be felt through the neural network. Earth's protective bubble wasn't needed anymore. Humanity had proven itself worthy not just of survival, but of helping to guide the universe's evolution. In the days that followed, the changes spread across space. Stars reawakened everywhere, each one singing with new life and possibility. The refugee species found new homes, not just surviving but thriving in the transformed cosmos. Mary stood with the other leaders, human and alien alike, watching the new universe unfold. Through the neural network, she felt the joy of billions of minds working together to explore and create. When the stars fell silent, she said softly, it wasn't an ending. It was an invitation to begin something new. The void remained, but not as a threat. It had become part of the great dance of creation, working with consciousness to shape reality itself. Humanity had found its true purpose, not just as survivors or saviors, but as partners in the endless symphony of existence. And somewhere in the depths of space, the next test was already beginning, waiting for those who were ready to take the next step in cosmic evolution. The stars sang on, their music a promise of endless possibilities to come.